about API testing. In last session, we have learned what's actually API testing and what means API, and also we have learned what are the how API works actually. I mean, then also we have learned what are the benefits of API testing and what are the different challenges we have in API testing and what is difference between web service and the API. So all these things we have learned in the last session. You can watch in the last video, which I have explained clearly, like what all these things. And today we will learn about the different the HTTP methods which we use for API testing. And we have like there are mainly five methods which we use for uh, as a part of HTTP methods in the API testing. And most popular one is get method. And get method is like why do we use it, like what is the use of it, like to understand if we want to retrieve a data from the resource like websites or the servers or the API, we send a get request. For example, if we send a get request to the server, if we want a list of our customers or a specific customer, that we can get it from the get request. Okay, so how get request will be formed, I can show you in the next slide. Here you can see for the store access, we send a store inventory as a part of get request, and the API will be uh, method will be get and the store and inventory. The same way we will be having a customer request, uh, we can send it. And if we want a specific inventory, we have to give after inventory, we have to give item, so that we will get the inventory of that particular item. Like here how we are seeing in the get request order ID, right? So the same way we can check for specific order ID as well. If we don't give the specific order ID or anything beyond after the inventory, then we get all the records of the inventory. Also, we will be having a API for getting a customer or getting an inventory. So there are different methods. Different APIs will be giving a different list of list of the requested information as part of get. Okay, so since get method is should never change the data, the source, the resource, and just reads them from the read only, and it is considered as a safe method. And additionally, a get method is an independent, and so in most of the I mean, as a part of testing, get will be the famous one to get the response from the server. And next, how do we go about like uh, to test other method? We also use a post method. Post method is like is used to send the data to the server, and when we send it, it actually creates uh, in the resource. So that's the reason like we use a post method, and post actually creates a new record in the server whenever we send post request. So you can see here, along with the store order, we have to pass the order ID, or like the information which creates order for a pet, like it's mentioned place an order for a pet. So that will create an order as a part of post. Okay, so we also have another method which is a put. Put is basically it is an updation to the existing record. So whenever we send a put request, we always use a specific record to be updated, and it updates entire record, entire row of that particular record. So that is part of like put request. And we also have another method called as the patch, which is similar to put, but it updates only a specific uh, uh, specific values, like specific attributes only. And it's also called as like updating partially and not entirely. So it is similar to put, but there is a only difference is like we update only the specific data in the patch, but in the put we update entire row of that particular record. So that's what the put is. And we also have another method which is a delete method. which deletes the record from the server. So when we send a request as a delete, we don't delete completely all the records. We usually send the specific delete. See here you can see we are giving a order ID as a part of delete request. So it deletes a specific order ID only. I mean it records of that particular order ID. So this is how we send different methods like get, post, put, and patch and delete. Most of the teams uses get, post, put, and delete, and some people use patch as well. So that's the reason I'm covering here. And coming to the next, we will learn what is the difference between authentication and authorization. So in the last session, we also seen we need to have the authentication to test that application or like API. We need to have auth overhead. So that's as part of like we need to know what is difference between this authentication and authorization. So here are the few differences between authentication and authorization. Okay, so authorization is the act of allowing or permitting someone, whereas authentication is providing that something is genuine. Okay, so authorization is always comes first. Okay, so while authentications comes after the authorization. Okay, so authorization is open to anyone with a permission. Okay, but whereas authentication requires you to have a password. So to understand more in a pictorial diagram, like I'll show you how it actually works. In authentication, you have to confirm user who you are by giving a user ID password. That's how the authentication works. But authorization is not the same as authentication. But authorization, you have to have permission to access that. Even though you are authenticated, you need to have authorization to access that particular page or like data. Then only that is called an authorization, so which gives a permission to us access the resource. So this authentication comes first and then authorization. So this is how it works. So this is the main difference between authentication and authorization. And we also see what are the different authentication techniques we use. We use a session or a cookie based authentication, and basic authentication, and digest authentication, and OAuth we use. And OAuth is like most of the application nowadays using OAuth, like Facebook, Twitter, or many applications which uses OAuth. And bearer token, and the AWS service uses AWS signature authentication, and Hawk authentication, NTLM authentication. So there are different kinds of authentications we have we need to handle as part of API testing. So that's the reason like I'm covering here. And in next class we'll learn more about what we need to verify as part of API testing, and so on so forth. And to understand more about API testing, keep watching. I will be uh, going over all the basics of API testing step by step so that you can understand better. And thanks for watching. Thank you.